Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Boss Spotlight. I am Tamara Diane, your boss exec. Thank you so much for watching again. We are live with Miss Chikita Mann, and she is going to tell us a little bit about her prophetic calling, how she helps people heal from emotional hurts. Also, her new book that had just came out, and that you can find that on Amazon. So we're going to have an amazing conversation with her this morning. How are you doing today?
I am great. I am wonderful, and it is an honor to be here with the boss.
Well, it is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. And excuse me for not having my camera on today. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep the party going. And I'm just so super excited and honored to be able to chat with you this morning and to be able to share with the world all the great things that you have going on. So, just tell us a little bit about your book and tell us about your new calling or your new answered call. Because I feel like we all have a calling that God has given us and that we just kind of decide we're going to ignore. And then finally we're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm finished ignoring. So this call that you have answered, your new book, tell us all about it.
Well, for one, I would say December 30th, actually, 2014, I was like, Lord, what it is. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing with my life? And he began to unfold for me some things that I had always known about myself, but you can know something, but acknowledging it is another thing. So with that, I realized that I did have a prophetic calling on my life. And part of that would be to help people to just move forward with purpose. And so, to a certain degree, my book, Identity Crisis, is like autobiographical. It helped me be able to see who and what I am, who and what I am not, and be able to move forward into what God has for you because it's very hard for you to walk in purpose when you don't even know really who you are or what you are, or you're unwilling to, or don't realize that you're holding on to so many things from the past, that the labels that people have put on you, or you still holding it against yourself, the mistakes that you made. This book is a way for you to be able to say that, okay, you know what? Leaving that all behind, I know what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm going to walk forward in that. I'm not looking back. I am meditating on, I am staying focused on the new me, my new identity in Christ.
Absolutely, and I think that's so huge that some of us, and myself included, that we take what the world has given us in regards to who they say we are, and we make that us. And when at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, that's really not oftentimes in alignment with what
Yeah.
God has told us and has made us for and created us for. And so I think that
Yeah.
it's huge. So in your book, Identity Crisis, kind of give us a couple of pointers that you have in your book for how people can go and really identify what their purpose is.
Well, I tell number one, so many of us we downplay our natural abilities. For some people, they tell you that if you acknowledge the fact that you're good at tearing things down and putting it back together, if you tend to put forward what your talents are, people want to tell you, well, you're being arrogant. That's not so. If you have that gift, you have that calling, it is really, it's not a good thing for you not to elaborate on that because you're not being a good steward of that gift that God has given to you, that calling that God has given to you. So in my book, I tell people that, I use a metaphor kind of, that it's like being in a cocoon, and all of a sudden you start to realize, the butterfly starts to struggle to get out of that cocoon because that cocoon can no longer contain them. That's what this book really is about. It is about you realizing that you're in a cocoon of self hatred, that you're in a cocoon of negative labels. You're just in that cocoon that is holding you, that is restricting you. And as you begin to walk into who you are in Christ, you begin to struggle, you begin to break out of that cocoon, and you come out a beautiful, I would say, if you're a male, you're a monarch butterfly, or if you are a woman, you're a very colorful, exuberant butterfly that everywhere you go, you are making someone happy, you are bringing someone focused, you are helping someone to go to their next level in their life, because that's another thing too I bring up in the book, is that if you're not walking in your calling, if you're not appreciating your gifts, how can you help someone else do the same thing?
Absolutely, and that's so huge. And I think it's one of those ideas where we have to become more selfless and
Yes.
realize that. And I always tell people that if you really believe that if you don't do something, that
Hmm.
somebody else is going to suffer because of
Hmm.
it, you start to live
Yes.
that way with everything. Like if I don't get this done, then somebody else isn't going to be able to
Yes.
potential. And I think that it's huge. And I'm so thankful that your book allows people to discover that process and to really
Hmm.
begin to live that way, which I think it's amazing. So how would
Hmm.
somebody begin this process and walking in purpose? What would you say maybe the first one or two things they need to do?
I have a little process that I thought up, and and the Lord told me that's not just for you. That's going to be part of your mission. There's a process that I call evaluate, eliminate to elevate. Evaluate means that you just take a good hard look at yourself, not a critical look, but just a good hard look at yourself and say, okay, who is working in my life? Who doesn't belong in my life? What belongs in my life? What is working for me? What's not working for me? Because that is a process that is ever going on. You discovering your identity, you discovering who you are, it never ends because we're growing as individuals. But in that evaluation stage, you are really saying, okay, you know what? This is not working. Yeah, my mother told me that lawyers make good money, but I hate law. I want to write. Writing is where I get my joy. Writing is where I'm reaching people. You're evaluating, okay, this is what I should be doing. And then you also have to evaluate why you're not doing it. Because the why is just as important as what am I not doing? What am doing? Why am I doing it? Are you doing it because it gives you a sense of fulfillment? Or are you doing it because everybody say, okay, you're good at debating, so you should be an attorney? But maybe you could be a better debater in writing. You're doing literary works. Eliminate. Eliminate says basically it's got to go. Whatever's not working, it's got to go. And the part about the eliminate is this: there are going to be some things that it's like gone already. But understand, elimination sometimes take a process also, because some things may not be easily removed from your life. But if you're moving forward and you're saying, okay, I got to wean this out, I got to stop this. Like, take for instance, in this phase, if it's I've gained too much weight. I am now 25 pounds overweight. Now, doctor is saying I need to go on medication because I'm pre-diabetic and all of that. Part of the elimination phase is you got to gradually get rid of that food that doesn't work for you, and you got to start incorporating some new things into your life. Um, Elevate. To me, elevate is where you start to see that, you know what, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm prospering where I am, and I'm not just prospering financially. So that's the other thing about, I would say, realizing your identity is that it brings prosperity to every area of your life, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and mentally. And guess what? You also are able to be such a blessing, an enormous blessing to those around you, because you're not walking around frustrated because you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. You don't know where you're supposed to be. When you're walking in purpose, there are so many other people that are going to be able to come along and say, yes, yes, she's true to her. She's being authentic. I want some of what she has.
And I think that that's such a huge thing that that elimination piece that you pointed out, it is a difficult struggle. But I think,
Yeah.
just like it says in the Bible that God will prune us so that we can
Yes.
be more fruitful. But that's
Yes.
so hard. Oh my gosh, it's so
Yes.
hard.
Yes.
It's really, because well, of course, everybody says anything worth having is worth working for. Well, we know all that stuff,
Yes.
and it's really easy to say those things,
Yes.
but it is so very, very difficult.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. And and one thing too, there is there's a scripture that I have in my book, and I have to admit, when I first started writing the book, I was just writing it. I mean, it was just coming to me, and I was just writing it. But after I got through and I was reading, going back through everything I had written, I thought about the verse in Ephesians 4:22 to 24. If you look at that verse in the Amplified Version, it basically tells you to strip yourself of all those things that are not working for you in your life, that is preventing you from being the real you, and that you're able to elevate into a fresh mental, I would have to say, a fresh mental place where you're not being bound by the emotional bondage. You're not being bound by the labels. You're not being bound by sometimes your unforgiveness of yourself. And that's another part of discovering your identity. Stop beating yourself because of the mistakes you made. The new you is going to move forward in what you have right now.
Absolutely. And give us that verse one more time.
Ephesians 4, chapter, I'm sorry, 22 through the 24th verse. And I encourage you to read that in the Amplified Version. Because once you read that in the Amplified Version, I promise you, you're going to sit back and you're going to look at I would say, look at the man in the mirror. Because sometimes all it takes is you doing the evaluating, the eliminating, and the elevating just to get you in that right place. And also, one thing about identity is that you got to be able to say the right things to yourself. Too many times we put too much emphasis on what someone else said about us, what somebody has said or somebody has done to us. Really and truly, all that is irrelevant. It's what you say to you at the end of the day that determines your success. And that's another thing that I really bring up in the book is that you got to know what to say to yourself. You got to know what to cast down. You got to be able to say, I'm redeemed, I'm forgiven. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to prosper in every area of my life. You get up every day and you start telling yourself that 5, 10 times a day, you're going to start to believe it, and you're going to start walking in that.
Absolutely. So give us a couple of takeaways. So someone decides, okay, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to dedicate myself to this read. What are maybe two or three things they can say, okay, this is what I'm expecting to walk away from my time with this book?
One of the things that you will walk away with is, number one, you're not alone. That's what gets a lot of people tripped up. They think they're the only one that's going through an identity crisis. Um, Having an identity crisis is not a bad thing. Not doing anything or going to the next level to find out who you really are, that's the bad thing. Number two, um, one thing that I will have to admit that the person will walk away in this book is that they're really going to start to realize the importance of their thoughts and their words. And that's something that is really downplayed a lot. I mean, as far as with me being a nurse, I just hear people say things and it's like, I have. And I rarely hear anybody come up and say, I have healing, I am healed. So, number two is the importance of words and the thoughts. And then number three, I would have to say one of the things is they would start to rethink their inner circle. Your inner circle is very integral to you discovering who you are and then you walking in who you are. Your associations. I would say number three, definitely you're going to start to reevaluate your inner circle.
And that's a scary thing. No one wants to be honest with themselves and say, you know what, this friend or this guy or this
Yes,
member, they're not really doing it for me. They're not
yes,
helping anyway. That's a scary thing.
yes. In fact, I have to admit, when I was talking to someone about the book, I wish I could have taken a picture of the look that they had on their face when I asked them point blank. I said, what about your friends? And they were like, what do you mean? I'm like, how are your friends helping you to go to that next level? And they couldn't answer.
hmm
So I tell people this is a great time of year. We're getting ready to go into 2016. I urge you to read this book so that you can go into 2016 with the journey of being the best you, being the best prosperous you, abundantly prospering you in your life.
And that's awesome. And that's interesting that you say that because a lot of people wait until, the first Monday of the year and say, I'm going to get
Yes,
it together. And
yes.
but by that time, you've lost so much ground. You're very, very correct when
Hmm.
you say that now is the time for you to begin those new mindsets. And now is the time for you to
Yes.
start shedding away those things that aren't
Hmm.
benefiting you. So that when you walk into you are a new creature and you're willing and
Yes.
you've made up in your mind, you've made the necessary arrangements
Hmm.
so that you can live a better life, not
Yes.
trying to get it together in January and then February hits and I'm new. Like, no, that's not the best practice at all. So that's very, very
Exactly.
true. So so ladies and gentlemen, those who are watching, I definitely encourage you to pick up Identity Crisis. You can find it on Amazon. And then also make sure that whatever it is that you're deciding to be better in, that you start now. Don't wait until the
Yes.
first of the year to say, okay, now I'm going to finally be different. We don't want
Hmm.
that to happen at all. Well, Chiquita, before we leave, we have something that we do the fourth show of every month. It's called The
Okay.
Fabulous Life. And we just give our guests the opportunity to share one of your guilty pleasures. So let people know that you are still human, that even though you are so awesome and perfect and, walking in your purpose and inspiring others to do so, that we still have our guilty pleasures. So kind of
Mhm.
share with us what yours is.
I have to admit, number one is tiramisu. If you want to win me over, get me some authentic tiramisu. And I am a happy person. And then number two, my other guilty pleasure, I would have to say, is a hazelnut latte from Starbucks. I gotta have it. I gotta have it. So I'm trying to do better, but depending on how that day goes, you're like, I need the Starbucks. Just give me the Starbucks. I'll be okay.
Absolutely. I feel like it's okay to have those, simple retreats. I just like, you know what? This is me resetting. For me, it's
Yeah.
naps. I love naps.
Oh, yes.
I
Yes.
love naps. And as most people, especially in the entrepreneur space, they're like, you got to burn the midnight oil. You got to do all this. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to take
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yes.
So that's definitely something that is totally anti, entrepreneur grind all day and all that stuff, which I just feel like it's unrealistic. But for me,
But
for,
they do say though that if you take those little 20-minute naps, that they really help to energize you. So I don't know if that's a guilty pleasure. They may help your creative process a little bit more. So I don't know if I would call that a guilty pleasure.
I, just we're gonna go with that because it feels right. So we're going to do that. Well, thank you so much for being on our show today. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for just, being open and for making this amazing book possible. But
Thank
before we head
you.
out, just let us know how we can get in touch with you. Let us know the link so that people can buy your book. Just kind of how can we get in touch?
Okay. I am available on Amazon, Nook, and also Kindle. My website is www.chikit as in Tom, AMANN.com. My email address, if you would just like to shoot me an email, see what else is going on, see what else I have going on. My email address is Chiquita, Chikita underscore man, MANN, at yahoo.com. Because I am actually already in the process of writing another book called Heart Detox, Getting Rid of the Spiritual Toxins. So right now I'm busy doing another book. So feel free to shoot me an email. If you have any questions, because I am also a nurse and I do help also with healthy eating. So feel free to contact me.
Awesome, awesome. And do you have any speaking engagements or book signings coming up?
I will have one on November 14th, and it is going to be at the Switzer Library in Marietta, Georgia. It's at the main library, Central Library in Marietta, Georgia. I will be having that on November 14th at 3 p.m.
Super, super. So we're definitely going to have to make sure that we blast that information out and make that available for
Yes.
those who are watching this broadcast. But thank you so much again for joining us and for chatting with us. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Tamara Diane. I am your boss exec, and this has been another episode of your Boss Spotlight, reminding you to always live unapologetically the life that God has designed you to live. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at boss_exec. Have a wonderful, great day.
Bye.